Hello and welcome to this wonderful session with Rupa Chaturvedi. She's the founder of Design Leaders Edge. She's also a professor of product design at Stanford University. One really fun fact, and I'll let Rupa talk about this now, is that she's the founder and president of Mirage Sustainable Racing Club.
Thank you so much, Hokan. And hey, everyone, very nice to meet you all. And thanks for joining us today. So, I was very excited about the invitation to speak at this event. I feel like it's time for us to bring the attention to the human aspect of human-centered AI, and it's a very timely topic. So glad to be here. I have a couple of thoughts to share. Would love this to be super interactive, so feel free to ask questions, and would like to just get a dialogue started. I think it's time for us to start thinking about the impact of the choices we are making today, and be a bit more responsible in those choices. So that's basically the ethos of what I'm trying to discuss here. And with that, I'm going to get started. So, very quickly, my name is Rupa Chaturvedi, and I am the founder of Design Leaders Edge. It's basically an entity I have been working on for the last 2 years to provide coaching and training in the area of human centered AI. For the last 2 years, I have trained over 800 professionals, both on the product and design side. And I'm also beginning to teach and coach at Stanford on the same topic. So I'm very passionate about it, and I hope to share some of my learnings and best practices here with you all today. So, with that, um, you all probably have read all the news, and almost every day there is a new article, a new announcement about how AI is transforming industries. It's transforming what we're doing every day. And if you look at the future, right, it seems like it has this approach of we are going to replace what humans are doing today. So your Uber driver could be replaced with an autonomous flying taxi. Your DoorDash dasher could be replaced with an autonomous drone who's going to deliver the pizza at your doorstep. Even folks who are caring for your elderly and senior family members could be replaced by robots who could provide that companionship and that support. And so that seems to be the mindset, and AI is becoming everything, creeping into almost every human need that we have today. AI is everywhere. If you look at how industry has adopted AI today in terms of deeper integration into their entire business stack, whether it is back-end applications, in terms of supply chain operations, etc., alongside front-end applications where your consumers are reaching out to your business in the form of customer support agents, AI is deeply integrated across the entire business stack. And one of the reasons this has happened is not just because of the a newfound capabilities from a technology perspective, but also because key industry players like OpenAI, Google, etc., are driving lower barriers to entry. Makes it super easy for organizations to build and ship AI applications when you have plug and play APIs and UX in a box for AI applications. So we are going to see AI everywhere, and it might also start taking the form of the kind of human personas that you interact with on a daily basis. You want to generate a new playlist, AI is your DJ. You want your kid to get some help from on their homework, AI is your homework helper. You want to get from place A to place B, AI is your navigator. And so AI is becoming just an omnipresent force in almost everything that you want to do, including some very cool innovative applications from a future perspective. If you really look at medical science, as well as some of the more broader global issues that we're dealing with, for example, agriculture, climate change, AI is going to enable a lot of cool innovations in these areas. So super exciting time to be on this planet when technology can empower and enable so many great applications. So while I'm excited, I'm a technology geek. I also feel a bit concerned. Our fascination with AI is not new. Since 1950s, we have been toying with this idea of, can we replicate human intelligence? can we, kind of understand the human brain and recreate it outside of our bodies? And that's been a fascination we have been kind of, exploring for a long time. If you folks have seen the movie Imitation Game, one of my favorite movies, you can see how the idea was, can machines replicate the human brain and can they think for themselves? And from there onwards, we have been trying decade after decade to try and create intelligence outside of the human paradigm. And we are now getting into a realm where we want to replicate human emotions, human creativity. And that's where I start getting concerned about where is this headed towards, and is there a time for us to reflect and think about the choices we are making. I hope you share that sentiment with me, because we want to talk a little bit about how should we do that. What should we think about? And so, one of the themes that is worth thinking about is anthropomorphism. Very hard word to pronounce, so you can say personification. But I feel like this is one of the key drivers. And again, not a new phenomena. For the last couple of decades, we have been exploring the idea of, through conversational paradigms, interaction paradigms, can we replicate, the way we interact with humans with machines? And so, if you remember 1960s, MIT did some experiments. They launched an AI assistant called Elisa, and folks were able to. It was named. It was given a persona, and folks started interacting with it. Fast forward, a couple of months, couple of years ago, Alexa, Siri, all of these personified AI assistants that make you feel like you're literally interacting with technology as if you were interacting with humans. What this does is it sets expectations and it builds biases and mental models in humans. They start building relationships with their technology. A professor of mine, when I was at Stanford about 10 years ago, Clifford Nass, he has been conducting a lot of research around the relationship between humans and technology. If you want to check out their work, he's done some great research and written some very fun books about how humans start expecting human-like tendencies in AI, and they build mental models and have positive and negative, social and emotional connections with technology. And if you see what we are doing today with a lot of our, virtual assistants, AI assistants, and giving them a persona, that basically is fueling that mental model for humans. What does that mean for, us going forward as a society and as humans? I think it's a very important question to ask ourselves. The more we personify AI, the more our expectations shift and evolve. We're literally reached a place, it's no longer the future, where it's hard to tell the difference between humans and AIs, and are you interacting with an AI or a human? So I'm going to play a quick video. Hopefully you can hear this. If not, you can easily find this video online. But I wanted to make a point.
I'm an AI generated version of Reid Hoffman, his digital twin. My thinking and everything I am saying comes from a custom GPT that is based on 20 years of Reid talking and making content. So I've read all his books, watched his speeches, and listened to his podcasts. I think it gives me a pretty good sense of how you approach the world, Reid.
So first, I'm going to challenge Read AI with some questions to see what it can do and how good its content is in mirroring what I might say.
Then the tables will turn and I will challenge you with some questions about AI and tech.
Of course, there's a second question, whether or not I'll answer.
Well, okay.
All right, so you get the point. You see how it's becoming hard to tell the difference between humans and AI. Just yesterday, I was reading an article about a new influencer who is completely an AI generated persona.
Well, okay.
She is not a real human, but she looks and speaks, and I'm sorry, this is moving a bit too fast. She speaks and talks like humans, and oh, not sure how to pause this. And this is our reality going forward, right? We are trying to not just replicate or mimic human intelligence, we want to mimic their creativity, we want to mimic their emotional intelligence, their body language, and try and kind of it's an exciting paradigm, but also something that freaks me out completely as to the downside of doing things like this. And if you have caught recent news lately about how data from AI models, how input into that data model has been misused for all sorts of wrong reasons, and Taylor Swift got caught into controversies around that as well. So there is a downside to try and pushing the boundaries around these paradigms. And I think that's the reason why we should be thinking about putting humans first as we think about the design and development of AI systems. And so, while we are excited and celebrating the potential of AI and experimenting with all the cool things that we can do, like Reid Hoffman did, I think we should also ask ourselves, how should we reset these expectations from users? User expectations are going to evolve, and we will see a lot of expectations, nothing short of magical experiences, a lot of context setting, understanding and deriving meaning and nuance. And as with generative AI, you're expecting AI to generate the next Beatles song or the next Picasso, and kind of literally taking that context of humans can process and create and generate and empathize and emote, and so AI should be able to do that. And as we keep pushing on those boundaries of user expectations, it's time for us to also make sure that we're doing that in a very responsible way. So I'm going to talk a couple of topics that we could think around on these paradigms. So,
Um, quick interjection. Since you welcomed the interjection, um, so with the development of this event, I suspended beliefs, and I everything that I've created so far with the Swarm community and collaborations developing content has been centered around what do I find to be cool or interesting or something worth exploring. And before we started recording this presentation, you said, it's cool that we're going to discuss this human element, uh, keeping the relationship between humans and AI in open dialogue. Um, I wanted to enter into this entire event with with suspended beliefs, because I also share with you that something is wrong at the pit of my stomach. Money tends to accelerate adoption of things that disproportionately allow these systems to be more efficient.
mhm,
And I wonder, like, we have these capabilities of pattern recognition. We have these capabilities of making machines super efficient. We have the capabilities of creating self-learning enclosed systems that can keep humans in the loop. But I don't see automated farming. I don't see unlimited food supplies.
yeah.
I don't see, hyper personalized vitamins to kind of close the gap on, developing young minds and bodies around the world. Um, so alongside the weird aspects of manipulation and shifting perceptions for capital gain, I'd want to just toss that on the forefront, because I also know that you're deeply involved in the food tech space as well.
Yeah, no, that's such a cool question. Thank you for asking that. I feel like that's where, the lines get, less blurry, is, there's things that you cannot automate entirely. Like an autonomous taxi could get you from point A to point B, but, you might even be able to create an autonomous agricultural equipment that helps you with seeding, harvesting, all of that. But can it replicate, the nuance of food creation or actual natural ingredients? I think that's doubtful. Although there's a lot of experiment around lab generated proteins and meat and such, which truly scares me, because we're heading towards a very synthetic world at that point, and we should not lose the sight of what keeps us human. And that's why some of these cool new experiments scare me. I want to put out a call to action to folks, saying, as you're exploring all these cool ideas, a lot of times us as humans, professionals, students, we are encouraged to think about how not to fail. failure is termed as a bad term, but I would urge you all to think about, what if you succeed? What's the impact of being successful in some of your experiments? So I love the experiment that Reid Hoffman did. I was super blown away and fascinated. And then it started making me feel weird in the tummy. It's like, what if everyone starts doing this? That's scary, right? What if everyone, experiments on, I want to read your brain waves and be able to capture your thoughts and turn that into music. That's very cool to think about an experiment. But what if you are a musician and someone does that to you? Would you feel comfortable? And so I think a lot of times, us humans, we enjoy the potential of these experiments when it is happening on someone else, or outside of our realm. But when it happens to us, when our painting, even if we are not Picassos, or our work, even if it was a simple PRD, gets stolen and repurposed, that's when we get impacted. And it's time to stop thinking about I and think about we. And I would say, think more about, what if this is successful and it becomes mainstream, it becomes something that is adopted globally, what happens then? It's time to ask those type of questions as well.
Also, that concept of anthropomorphism, the personification of objects
Yeah,
and machines that seemingly feel like they're sentient, or that they have the capabilities of reasoning, though they don't.
yeah,
Um, it's scary for populations at risk, like kids or people that may have mental,
absolutely.
mental incapacities, that they trust and see these things as a sign of authority, and that they will make decisions based on recommendations on these potentially biased and
Yeah,
disturbed machines. So that's another concern of mine as well. Where are we going?
absolutely. We are positioning these personified AIs, like almost every day you see another AI agent launch and it has a name. I heard one of the startups name their AI agent Rihanna, and they are positioning it as it can do all of these cool things and literally become your co pilot in what you're doing. I used to work with Amazon Alexa, so I have tons of Alexa devices at home. Every time my child asks me a question, I answer the question. He still goes and asks Alexa because he thinks Alexa is smarter than I am. So that's the new generation that we can already see evolve, where the trust in machines is higher than trust in humans. And that's something to think about as well, is because you've personified that machine and made it look like human like, and made it and reduce the barriers. So when you're talking to humans, there are still some friction points. There's the fear of being judged, there's a fear of pushback, and machines don't do all that. So you want to take the easy path. So let me just overcome all of these barriers to conversations with humans. Machines are easier, and then you start building that trust and that sense of authority. And that's worth thinking about as well.
And the affection, like
Yes.
when you're a young boy or a young girl, or even if you are a lonely person, whether you're like an elderly person that is isolated from family, or you live in a less densely populated area and you have no partner.
Yeah.
I mean, these these machines that have some sort of human characteristic, whether it's male or female, just engaging with something that isn't human, that doesn't reject you,
Yeah.
leaves room for that creepy feeling of like, I fell in love with Alexa, or
Yeah.
I love this other robot.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, thinking of something like this at scale, where it becomes the norm in society. That's the scary part, right? Is it's a one-off situation. We had a story at Alexa where a senior citizen who owned the device and was alone at home fell down and was able to use voice to be able to call the emergency services. Super beautiful story. Love that use case. But imagine, imagine these stories becoming at scale, where that's your only source of emergency services, or replacing your family with devices. I'm sorry. So yeah, again, thinking about scale, thinking about how this would impact us if it becomes the next social norm, right? And that's why I'll point the community to the resources from Professor Clifford Nass. He's really helped us articulate all of these nuances, the relationship between human and machines. And this work was done years ago, and today we are bringing a face, a name, a personality to these machines and making it even more easier for folks to drop that questionable experience and say, I'm just going to make this the most normal thing that I can imagine, which I think is scary for sure. All right, so we'll move on from here. I just wanted to talk about here's my definition of human-centered AI. I think it's pretty straightforward. Basically, we want to prioritize the needs, the values, and the well-being of humans and society in general as we design, develop, and deploy AI systems. And so, human-centered design, human-centered thinking is not a new concept. We're all very familiar with it, but it is a bit more important in the case of AI. And so putting human needs first, not just in terms of building a product, but hey, how are we thinking about doing this in a responsible way, I think would be a great starting point. So as you are building AI systems, maybe think about design principles that will help you bring humans front and center into your development process. So, a couple of principles that will help you establish a more human centered approach to the work you're doing. Number one, trust and transparency, right? That literally goes without saying, but let's double click on that as to what that even means. So, in terms of data quality, the quality of your data is going to impact the user experience. It's going to derive, areas around security, privacy, etc. So, making sure that you are choosing the right data and it is high quality to be able to potentially offer accuracy, relevancy, representation, and it's attributed well enough for humans to process where is this data coming from. I should be able to trace it back to its source so I know how did AI come up with this recommendation or this response. And so thinking about data as a vehicle for building trust and understanding how humans perceive the information that is being provided, where trust gets built or where we breach trust. I think those are important elements to think about. I just recently did an exercise with my class around reviewing the different approaches that various chat assistants like ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity, Copilot have taken into data quality and some of these attributes that I just mentioned. And you can see how different companies are approaching data quality or providing attribution or building trust with users. And you can see that we are already taking a few steps in that direction. There's more to go here, but I think it's a good step in that direction. In terms of transparency, I think you might have heard some of this from previous speakers. I was listening in a few sessions. I think a lot of folks are saying the same thing. So make sure that you are transparent about AI. And what, if you break that down, what does that really mean? Is being transparent that AI is being used or you're interacting with AI, making sure that the user has control and agency, whether they want to use that AI enabled experience or not. And things like facial recognition or using your data in training, those are good places to establish some control points and make sure that the humans involved in the process feel like this is not completely out of their control and they have some agency around it. You might have heard about the concept of explainable AI. It is taking a lot of momentum these days, and rightfully so. Making sure that your AI systems are able to provide complete transparency and explain what data sources were involved in generating this recommendation. How did AI arrive at this, suggestion or this decision, and the humans can understand the underlying work in progress. And then human user inputs, right? So almost 10 years ago, I used to work with a startup where we were building AI experiences for shopping. And we would hear from users that would say, I don't want a self driving car. I want a smart car that I can control, right? And so users have this mindset that I don't want to let go of control entirely. And so building in mechanisms for user inputs so they feel like they can shape their interaction with AI and shape the outcome, and be able to decide when they want AI to completely run the show versus when they want more control and more input, will make them feel more, they'll make will make them feel that AI is more trustworthy and is more transparent. So those are some simple mechanisms you can include in your development and design process to build that trust and transparency, and again, bring the human centered thinking into your process. Responsible AI, this is like a pretty broad and deep area, so we're not going to cover everything. We'll run out of time very quickly, but a couple of things that you can keep in mind to even have building blocks in how you design and build AI responsibly. So one area that comes to mind over and over again for me is bias mitigation. And Hook and I were talking about this a little while ago as well, right? So if you are building AI systems that have not been evaluated or assessed for bias, you're literally not building that trust and transparency in users. And so, making sure that you're including diverse and representative data for a broad set of users to make sure that they feel like there's inclusion and it's an unbiased data set. Building mechanisms for bias detection, so rigorous testing. There's this concept of human in the loops that just evaluates on a regular frequency the output of AI and making sure that they are mitigating those biases. Your team is the first line of contact for folks who are building AI systems. If you're making sure that your team is diverse and inclusive and has practices, has that mindset of being inclusive and addressing biases, your AI system eventually will follow through those principles. And then contextual awareness. Fairness or bias is very contextual to different people, and it's a hard problem to solve, where how do you design and build for everyone? You're not trying to do that, but you're trying to be mindful of the context in which users are using your systems and how they might perceive bias and fairness. And so keeping that in mind as a design principle will help you establish expectations. Again, this goes without saying, but privacy and security are a huge area of concern for a lot of users, and something that I believe even whether it's startups or large companies frivolously at this point, unfortunately. And so make sure that you are not using data that you don't need. Minimize the amount of data, limit your sources, be very mindful of what data you are utilizing to train your models, so that you're not subconsciously kind of you're using data you shouldn't be using. Informed consent, make sure that your users are providing you with consent to use their data, and they have some level of visibility and transparency around how that data is being used. Of course, you want to make sure that the data is secure. With the scale and pace of AI development, it is a bit scary to think about how the lines between security and training are being blurred, and I don't know where my data is being used and for what. There are ways to there are ways to think about preserving these privacy, user privacy, and training your models to anonymize the data and reduce chances of data breach, etc. And the right to be forgotten, that's something that I think we're just early stages of thinking about, how a user can opt out of their personal data being utilized, but you still can build a robust training set there. So thinking about user privacy and putting that front and center in your development process would go a long way in building user trust and adoption going forward. You want to think about augment, not replace. There is so much of talk in the industry about we are using AI to replace the humans and our workforce, and it's just creating a lot of fear, anxiety, and concern in the general professional world, and it's a bit unnecessary at this point to create such high amount of panic. We are not at a point where AI is going to completely replace humans, so why sell those stories just yet, right? But there is a happy medium where AI can bring in significant value in terms of large scale data processing, pattern recognition, synthesis, etc., which could help humans, free up their time and mental bandwidth to do more creative, more strategic, jobs. And so, how do we think about AI as an enabler, a true partner, and augmentation of human capabilities rather than replacing them? I think that's a pretty negative story for society to to kind of toy around right now, and it will lead to lack of trust and adoption in AI technology going forward, anyways. So coming back to human AI interaction, we talked about personification, and again, what that has led to is a pretty high standard in terms of human AI interaction. And so user expectations are very high. They expect their interaction with the AI to be super intuitive, very natural. I don't want to be trained on anything. I should be able to say the query in whichever way I can that comes naturally to me, and AI should be able to understand that. And now humans are almost thinking about AI should be able to decipher the nuance and the meaning in what I'm trying to say, which is pretty evolved. And again, it's exciting to think about that, but I would get worried about what happens if this becomes the norm at scale, right? They expect AI to be context aware. I am currently in Dallas, and if I ask Siri what time it is, I expect them Siri to tell me the time in Dallas. So basic context awareness, which means Siri should know where I am right now, which again is super, creepy if you really think about it. And they expect AI to have follow-on experiences, right? I should be able to ask a follow-on question. AI should be able to maintain the context of the thread and be able to answer my questions, keeping the original conversation in mind. So when you see these expectations that users have from AI interaction, you can see, a pattern evolving here, that we are literally mimicking human to human conversations as we are building AI applications here. So every time I do any research on human AI interaction or future of conversational I see visuals and images of robots and future forward visuals. But if you really want to build great experiences and you want to create magical experiences with AI, my recommendation would be to develop a deep understanding of how humans interact with each other, which brings us back to full circle of putting humans front and center, and be able to keep that mindset in your process as you think about what am I building here. I'm trying to create this human to human interaction, replicating that in AI, which I think will drive a lot of AI adoption going forward as a paradigm shift in terms of how we interact with machines and technology, reducing that barrier. But again, going back to some of the principles we talked about, how to do that in a responsible, ethical way that maintains user trust is what I would put a call out to action on. So that's all I had. I'm happy to take any questions if we have time. How are we doing on time, Quinn?
We have time. Right now, people can go on network, but I'm sure uh, people are watching. So I certainly enjoyed you giving this overview of these core concepts, and I'm really happy you expressed your own concern with the way that things are moving. It's exciting. It's
Yeah,
really exciting for us to be able to do these things. Computer vision, natural language processing, deep learning, being able to provide recommendations for drugs to help people
yeah,
heal and solve diseases that were otherwise unsolvable. Um, but at the same time, you know, I understand why people hate autonomous vehicles, especially taxi drivers.
yeah,
Or people fearing for the like you mentioned earlier, these companies that just harvest images, and you just started doodling at 3 years old, at 7 years old. Maybe you want to be an artist,
yeah.
and even before you get a chance to harness and mature your talents through the natural function, you feel discouraged because there's something that has already stripped out and kind of blended all the creativity of the world
Yeah.
without permission, you know?
Absolutely. And it's not the first time we are seeing technology, inspire such a huge paradigm shift, right? We launched the internet, and then we saw the mobile, paradigm as well. And every time there's been a shift in technology, we have seen letting go of previous ways of doing things and adopting to new ways of doing things. And it's only helped us do more and better with limited resources. But at the same time, I think we are also in a unique position today because we have seen the impact of technology at scale. Look at social media, the super exciting space, brought so many people together, but at the same time, it has had negative
Yeah.
impact as well. So it's time for us to think about the negative aspect of these, because today people are calling for less and less usage of screen time. So if you can't even use the cool technology you're building, what's the point of it, right? So why push it beyond that point? Why push it beyond that barrier? So I think we have an opportunity to learn from our recent past and still leverage the potential and the positive aspects that AI technology can bring, while being mindful of the negative impact, and manage and monitor it today before it kind of goes out of hand, and then we are scrambling to just, let's not have this AI interaction anymore. I think that's not the solution, and we should be wiser after all the learnings we've had so far.
I would hope so. But we seem to rediscover the same problems again and again and again and again. You mentioned human factors, and even those kinds of ideas of keeping humans in the loop have existed since the time that
Yep.
Pythagoras was developing, his triangle, and people were developing musical instruments, and architects were developing these columns and structures that had the proportion of humans and golden ratios in the forefront of their minds. Those ideas have always existed,
Yeah.
uh, but now we've been changing the label behind it. Human factors turn into design, turn into UX, and you strip away some of the humanity elements so that it's easier to manufacture workers in those kinds of areas.
Yeah.
So yeah. Um, any ideas or any closing thoughts that you can provide? Designers, researchers, people that are engaging in this space. You're deeply involved, and you've worked with some pretty heavy hitting organizations, so you know what it is to implement things that impact at scale. Um,
Yeah, I think pretty much what I was trying to summarize in my talk today as well is, sometimes I feel like in large organizations or even in startups, I've heard a lot of startup folks tell me that we don't have the resources or the agency like large corporations do. I think none of us, irrespective of what type of company we work in and what function or role we kind of manifest, we should not think of us not having any agency. Each one of us has the agency, and not just that, we have the responsibility. So don't let scale or your role or where you are in the command chain deter you from being that voice, that is the voice of reason, because I've seen even one voice make a big difference in large settings as well. So if you truly believe in that we should be responsible in how we are thinking about AI adoption and development, then don't hesitate to be that voice and champion that. You'll be surprised how you could really make an impact in whichever organization you're working with.
Thank you very much. You won't learn unless you try, right?
Absolutely.
At least
You
experiment.
learn different ways to get your voice heard. You will potentially inspire people to stop and think. I think you just need that one person being that champion, and building a set of followers that say, okay, if you can do it, I can do it too. And sometimes it's just that lack of initiative, that why should I say it if nobody else is? Why should I bother if no one else is? It's somebody else's job. I think that's what I would like to leave everyone with is, it's not somebody else's job. It's our job, and we should be taking that initiative.
And if you don't want, and if you got resistance in the organization, you could take that idea and just give it a fictitious company and do the project at home. If you have an initiative that you want to create, do it in a fictitious scenario, try, and as your skills improve and your knowledge and experience improves,
Yeah,
when you go into organizations, they'll hear you out more.
absolutely. Find your allies. You can always find an ally in or outside your organization, and keep building that momentum.
Well, thank you very much, Rupa. It's been lovely having you, and um, yeah, we'll we'll take a break. Go network, people. Go make new friends, and we'll reconvene in another 20 minutes for the next one.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure. Thanks, everyone.